Okay, so this is not a video I planned on making today, actually, but we found out we were literally right down the hall and one floor above LM TEK. Now, if you don't know what LM TEK is, I'm actually sitting here with LM TEK CEO Mark Tanko. Mark Tanko and I go back about a decade. You were CEO of EK at the time when I was doing, my channel was very new. I was doing a lot of water cooling projects and stuff, and I think we were one of the first YouTubers you worked with when we were doing custom builds and stuff. So kind of fast forward, you guys know EK about 2 years ago went through a major financial crisis. Vendors weren't paid, distributors weren't paid, employees weren't paid, and it was just a financial disaster. Obviously, Steve did a couple of exposés on that and really brought attention to the issue because of the fact that employees aren't being paid by a big company, and it was a legitimate problem. So fast forward to last year, middle of the year or so, I started receiving emails from a company called LM TEK, PR emails, that were discussing, hey, LM TEK, EK by LM TEK, or however it's being phrased. But then when I saw that you were CEO of LM TEK, I got really intrigued, okay, what is the dynamic here? I'll let you kind of explain it, but what we're doing here today is trying to get a follow-up of what has happened since the EK collapse with Eddie as the owner / CEO at the time. And this, gosh, we could make a 2-hour video easily about this, but this is not the first time this sort of thing has happened. This is just the worst it's ever been. So if you wouldn't mind, go ahead and just kind of explaining to me what the structure currently is. Have the employees that were not paid, have they been paid? What's the current plan? And what do you see the future of this LM TEK EK collaboration being? Because there's an interesting structure there.
Yeah, it was probably the only structure that kind of managed to go through the banking system, because everybody believed that the EK brand was very strong. Even though there was collapse financially, people they loved the brand. Yeah. And the product was always great. The only thing that was not great is how it was managed, and it overexpanded in those COVID years. Mm-hmm. It kind of ended up being overfinanced in different industries, trying to do full systems, trying to go production in Asia. It was still a niche. All in all, custom cooling never went full mainstream, and at one point it just started going down, and if you're overexposed financially, that kind of leads to all sorts of problems. Yeah.
So you talked about COVID. Do you think some of it stemmed from, and we don't have to speculate a whole lot of what caused it, that doesn't matter, yeah, right? But I just thought it was interesting you mentioned kind of overstretching during COVID. A lot of companies thought that kind of revenue was the new norm because every company was seeing more financial growth than they'd ever seen, but it wasn't sustainable. It wasn't real. That kind of buying frenzy runs out. And so now go ahead and explain to me what the last, how long ago did this structure take place?
So it took a while to get it done. I think it's now a little bit over a year and a half that LM TEK started to exist. So what happened is that EK Water Blocks, the company still exists, but it exists only for the reorganizational purposes of paying back the loans to the banks, to the remaining vendors.
Can I pause you there for a second? Yeah. The reason why I want to pause there is when I saw the press releases that went out, I started reading the comments and Reddit and this and that, because it was shared a lot. And there was a lot of this sentiment that the structuring was attempted to shield by having to pay back. And that's the opposite of the reality. The structure that you're explaining to me exists solely to pay back.
Yeah, exactly. That was actually also one of the reasons why it was easier for me to come back into a story. That is not something that would be considered illegal or bad.
Right, and you're not hiding anything.
No.
Right? Because you talked about, before we started this interview, that there's an accountability website where you can see the current payback structure and who's being paid and such. Yeah. Right? Because there's full transparency there.
So LM TEK is now is getting the EK brand, and it's taking care of it. We are taking care of the web shop. We are selling the goods. It's a very limited scope compared to what it was. Before we had like 2,000 SKUs, now it's 300, yeah. And we are paying royalties to EK Water Blocks, and these royalties are then used to pay back all the loans. And the banks are the last one. That was part of the agreement. Mm-hmm. First, we pay all the employees. That was already done last year. then we have to repay the customers and vendors, and the last of the back.
So all employees that were owed back wages, that's 100%.
That's an old story, yeah.
Okay, so that lines up with some of what I've heard, because I have heard from a vendor or two, like, well, we haven't been paid back yet, but there's a hierarchy of important payback, and customers, I assume, were first. Exactly. Right, and you said banks were last, bank loans and all that sort of stuff.
Employees were first.
That's what I'm saying. Employees were first, but last is banks.
The banks, yeah. That was part of the agreement, because this way you can actually keep the brand intact.
It's viable.
Yeah.
Because the banks need the brand to work for them to get paid back.
Exactly. So. And also LM TEK, as a new company, we rehired the EK Waterblock employees under LM TEK.
A good chunk of them too, from what I
basically everybody who was okay to come to this new company. It was a choice.
Because I'm sure there's some that weren't comfortable coming back.
It was as I have heard, it was a very stressful time at the end of EK. Also for the employees, there was months where they didn't get the salaries.
Right.
So not everybody was.
Their lives were really affected.
Yeah,
not just impacted, but from what I understand, many of them could not pay their bills. Some had to move. You know, they could not make ends meet.
Exactly. But fun story. Out of that, there's like 45 employees left. Out of those 45, there's still 8 that they worked for me first time I was the EK. So it's really a loyal base.
Yeah.
That's more than 10 years now.
Yeah. So those that don't know, Mark had gone over to Corsair and helped with the HydroX line, and then obviously now you're back with your own company, LM TEK. So I want to clarify what Mark was saying about the royalties. Is the money that EK is receiving only goes to obviously keeping that company operational, which I'm assuming there's a lot of check-in on the way the finances are being spent and wages and such, and then all profit goes to paying back the debts, right? So anything above operating cost, I would assume, is what's going to paying back the debts.
You mean the EK water blocks?
EK water blocks.
Yeah. So there's no operating cost basically for EK. It's just one employee and that's it.
Oh, okay. So I misunderstood. I thought when you said there were 45 that there were still...
No, that's all LM TEK.
Okay. So the EK brand now, the IP only exists in a debt payback structure. Yeah. So all of the EK designs and such, your business has licensed those designs.
Exactly.
Because the IP is still owned by Eddie.
Yeah.
Okay, so that makes perfect sense then. So that was the structure basically. He's not, that entity cannot just fold up and walk away from it. To keep it viable without buying the IP outright, you buy the licensing, almost like a franchise.
Yeah, almost like that. Yeah. This way LM TEK can run EK just like it would be our own, but we can also do other stuff. So we do industrial cooling, we do servers now. Mm-hmm. So we can actually branch out, but one part is always custom cooling from EK.
Okay, yeah. So I'm glad we had this conversation. So I'll put a link to the website down below. Anyone can see that? Yeah. For the payback structure? Yeah. Okay.
So under EK Waterblocks page, there is a transparency overview. What we show there is fully which sections were already paid out. If you are a customer who didn't get paid back, you can just type in your order number and you will see how much we owe you, or EK owes you, and also what is estimated repayment day.
Yeah.
And there's also one thing that we will also get implemented. If you want to skip the line, LM TEK is willing to kind of give them the coupon codes at LM TEK shop or EK, and they can use it for the value that they had there.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So that's kind of easier.
Almost like a credit?
Yeah, it's a credit to spend on the web store. It's an easier way that we were able to arrange with the banks that kind of...
Okay, so it just becomes a debt resolution by you absorbing that debt as store credit at LM TEK. Yeah, that's an interesting structure. I mean, we hear so often, companies mess up and they just say, oh, whatever, we'll just, in America, just file Chapter 11 bankruptcy and wipe the debt and start a new company and off we go. And I think that was where a lot of the fears were, that's what LM TEK was. So I thought it was important for us to do this video and clarify that LM TEK is not just a debt restructuring in the sense of shielding from debt, which is what a lot of companies will do. They'll just bankrupt a brand, fold it up, everyone owed money is just left hanging, they start another company and then they just keep going. And that's an unfortunate system that a lot of companies operate that way.
Honestly, that was also my thought. When I heard about this, I was still at Corsair, and we thought that that's the reason.
Exactly. Yeah, it was just a debt shielding. It was that type of structure typically protects the person that owes the money, not the other way around.
And now when I was offered to come back, my first question was, okay, who are the new owners and are they serious about repaying everything? Mm-hmm. Because you know me from many years ago, I was always about trusting and having a group of people that you can work with. So you want to start a new story with something bad like that. Mm-hmm. And actually Exacta Group, which is Serbian brand, they do a lot of consulting in their market and also in Slovenia. They are a very good standing company. So once I realized that they are in this to save it, that was the reason why I was willing to go.
Now, earlier you had said, you had corrected yourself. You said when we owe, and then you said, well, EK owes. It's important to know that EK's viability to pay back the debt is entirely on the shoulders of LM TEK being successful. So it's an interesting arrangement where you guys are licensing, obviously, the EK designs, because that IP and that design still belongs to EK. But it allows you to get up and running faster in creating a product that, there's a server rack sitting right here in front of us. And that was something I remember that EK was trying to get involved in, like these manifolds and stuff. I'd seen these before, but they, like you said, they weren't really deploying them or really offering them as a service. And small deployments like this are still very much a very viable business for not even AI. I mean, obviously AI has changed everything, but this allows smaller build-outs for companies that need their own server racks and such, and that business is never going anywhere. Yeah. So it seemed like a really logical place for the technology to be leveraged to make the company profitable. But you were saying that you're not going all in on this, you're still creating consumer product. You just had to shrink the portfolio.
Yeah, the portfolio was shrinked even before I joined, but I love custom cooling. It's like tuning from cars, just moved in a different box. Yeah. I want to keep that alive, but it's not enough for this market to actually live only off that. So for that reason, I revived this server story, but I also gave them the task that we will do workstations. And because this is majority of current cooling offerings basically on the market. Yeah.
Well, Mark, I appreciate you talking with me and being, both transparent and vulnerable. I mean, obviously, you said this has been about a year and a half now for you, but I mean, it takes a long time to rebuild trust and consumer trust specifically, and I'm happy to see that those that were passionate about EK products, designing them internally are now, back in the industry working on this again, because I've always loved the EK design philosophy. I've loved the industrial but clean aesthetics that they've always brought. I mean, especially from the first time, we met, over 10 years ago, where it's just, there's a passion there that I feel like it's not as wide. It's always been niche, but it's definitely more niche now than it's ever been. But I feel like there's opportunity again with how power hungry and hot components have got again. There's an opportunity for water cooling to make a resurgence. But more importantly, that can't happen if the people that are running the company are not able to make ends meet because of bad management. So I appreciate you talking with me and explaining that structure. And I thought it was important for you guys to hear sort of a follow-up, because after the expose 2 years ago, there hasn't been anything else that's come up. And I think it's important for people to see where it is now and to know that there's a place you can go to see as the debts continue to get paid back. I think you said about 60% of all debt has been repaid already, right?
I don't know exactly the percentage, but a large part. And then it's different categories. So vendors have different arrangements. Banks are waiting for everybody else. Employees were the first. Now customers are the next batch. And unfortunately, I would like to pay them back out of royalties right away, but there's not enough influx to do it in month or two. It will take time.
You can't pay back debt with more debt, if that makes sense. Like, you have to actually have liquidity to pay. It has to be real money that's moved, right? So when you say customers, though, can you define what customer is?
So this is all the end customers who were ordering at EK website.
I heard about that. People that had put in orders, but they just didn't move.
Yeah.
They took the money, but the product never came.
Yeah.
Okay. I wasn't sure if it was like EK business to business customer or actual like consumer?
No, business to business was not actually that affected because they had parts orders they paid later, so that was not a problem.
So there you go. If you're a former, or not former, but if you're an EK customer that has an order that was never fulfilled, you said there's a place they can go to put in that order number and kind of see where they are and what's happening?
Yeah, exactly. Transparency.ekwb.com.
Okay. So we'll make sure we put that down in the description. Make sure you guys check that out if you are owed money by orders that you placed. And I guess one question too, though, is if somebody already did a chargeback, would that have reflected on the list and they wouldn't be on that list anymore?
Yeah, that should be the case, yeah.
Okay. All right, so that way they can't have charged back and get a refund?
No, but they can write us and we'll give them a new discount code for something else if they want.
Okay, well, I hope it works out. I hope, obviously, I want you guys to be successful. I want EK to continue to exist in a capacity at which it's got its reputation back, and it sounds like you're doing a lot of work towards that goal. So thanks for talking with us. Like I said, this was not a planned video. I just happened to notice and say, we're gonna be right there next to them. Let's see if we can squeeze in there and get a conversation going. So not a typical type of video you see on this channel, but one that I thought was important. So anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Subscribe if you're new, and you can check out the rest of our Computex 2026 coverage, and we'll see you in the next one.